But this process means the President has the sole authority to give that order, whether we are responding to a nuclear attack or not.
In the heat of the Cold War, the president was the sole decider of nuclear attacks. But in 2017, does that still make sense? That's the debate Senator Bob Corker led on the Senate floor today. It's the first time in more than 4 decades that the House or the Senate has reviewed the president's power to order a nuclear attack. Now, the hearing comes as the president continues to trade insults with North Korea's dictator.
The big question right now, how could this discussion possibly change national security? Here to help us answer that question is Dr. Brandon Prinz. Thank you so much for being with us from the University of Tennessee.
You're welcome.
First of all, just to reiterate that point, the president does have blanket authority to call for a nuclear strike, correct?
He does. It's existed since the beginning of the Cold War. There was a time when it was considered strategically useful to prevent what would be a first strike from the Soviet Union, which would knock out our missiles and prevent a retaliation. But a president does have that ability. Now, he doesn't push the button. There are military personnel who actually then turn the keys to launch. But he certainly orders that attack, and they follow his orders.
Let's talk more about the debate on the Senate floor led by Senator Corker. Why would he bring this up to limit the president's ability to make the decision on his own?
Well, I think President Trump, in his own words, has produced concern among many foreign policy elites that he might be willing to rashly use nuclear weapons. He's used the term fire and fury when referring to North Korea. And so he himself has brought this on him a little bit by some of the rhetoric he's used in both his talks, his speeches, and in his tweets. And so Corker and others like Ed Markey of Massachusetts and Christopher Murphy of Connecticut are simply trying to perhaps rein in or bring the issue to a head to the attention of the public and perhaps rein in a president's ability a little bit to launch so quickly.
Yeah, there has been a gap, as you mentioned, in this discussion of several decades. Why do you see this gap now, the discussion rising to the surface again?
So I think, again, I think it's largely because of some of the rhetoric that Donald Trump has used. I mean, it's fairly unprecedented. I mean, it's somewhat shocking for me that this hearing even took place. I mean, I can't think of another hearing that has addressed specifically a president's ability to use nuclear weapons. There have in the past been hearings about a president's ability to use military force, and Congress has addressed those. But I can't think of another instance of when a president's direct ability to use nuclear weapons has come up for debate and discussion.
Surprise.
It is very surprising. Now, what came out of the hearing, I don't think was very surprising. I mean, not much. I mean, Democratic members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee criticized the president and his impulsiveness. Republicans were a bit more restrained, and it just expressed some concerns that there would be appropriate checks and balances on the ability to launch, but not much came out of the hearings, I think.
We're almost out of time, though. Really quickly, what would it take to change the chain of command?
I think that would be. I think you couldn't get a change of command. I mean, Article 1 of the Constitution already gives the power to make war to Congress, to declare war. But Congress has largely abdicated its authority over using military force. They've delegated it to a president, and Congress, if it wants to, can rein in and has reined in sometimes in the past a president's ability to use force. But over nuclear weapons, I think nothing will come of it, and it'll just kind of fade away.
Dr. Prinz, interesting topic for sure, needless to say. We appreciate your time and your insight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.